Detroit Lions fans, buckle up, because there is a real, legitimate case forming right now that this defense, yes, the same defense that's given us all a few too many gray hairs the last couple seasons, might actually be built to get this team where we've all been dreaming of going. And no, we're not talking about the offense here. We all know the offense is going to be great again. That conversation is basically settled at this point. What we're digging into today is the other side of the ball, the side that has quietly, and sometimes not so quietly, held this team back from taking that final step. So the real question on the table is simple. Does this Detroit defense finally have what it takes to carry this team to an NFC championship game, or even further? Let's start right in the trenches, because that's exactly where this entire story begins. A detailed breakdown recently came out diving deep into how the Lions' defensive scheme, particularly out of their nickel and hybrid front looks, hinges almost entirely on the athleticism and disruptiveness of the interior defensive tackles. Think about some of the modern, aggressive fronts you see around the league right now. Teams like Seattle rotating between a 4-3 look and creeping their strong safety down into more of a 3-4 hybrid shell. The common thread across all of these successful defensive systems is simple. You need defensive tackles who can move, who can win one-on-one battles, and who can consistently disrupt plays before they even develop. And here's where things get exciting for Detroit. Tyleik Williams, entering his second season, has reportedly undergone a serious body transformation this offseason, and the buzz around his improved conditioning and athleticism has been building all summer. Now pair that with a healthier, stronger version of Alim McNeill, a player who missed significant time last season, and suddenly you're talking about a potential interior duo that this organization has been chasing for years. If you followed this front office at all, you know how much value general manager Brad Holmes and head coach Dan Campbell have consistently placed on building up that defensive tackle position. They've tried multiple combinations over the years. Remember when they even used a premium draft pick on Levi Onwuzurike, a player who's more of a tweener between end and tackle. Interior defensive line help has always been a priority, and it's always been a little bit difficult to fully solve. Well, this offseason, the Lions doubled down again, using another premium draft resource on a new, athletic defensive lineman who immediately became one of the most talked about additions of the entire offseason. His name is Tyler Lacey, and the tape on him is exactly what you want to see if you're a Lions fan tired of watching opposing offenses just power their way up the middle. On one particular highlight play that's been circulating, you can watch as this new athletic front simply blows up a run play before the running back has even gotten the handoff. The defensive line shoots gaps so quickly and with such coordinated timing that it completely disrupts the blocking scheme, forcing the safety to fly downhill unblocked while two linebackers flow through completely untouched. It's the kind of still frame that tells the whole story on its own. The play was dead before it even started. Now, let's rewind for a second and remember exactly why this matters so much, because Detroit's interior defensive line was legitimately a problem last season. DJ Reader, a respected veteran presence, was clearly playing in the twilight of his career and simply couldn't consistently get it done at the level this defense needed. There wasn't enough juice, enough disruption, enough athleticism up front to complement the star power Detroit has at other levels of the defense. And when your interior can't hold up, it doesn't matter how good your edge rushers or your linebackers are. Offenses will find a way to expose that soft middle. Speaking of star power, let's not forget what Detroit already is locked in on the edge. Aiden Hutchinson remains an established star, one of the premier pass rushers in all of football when healthy. At linebacker, Detroit arguably boasts the best player at the position in the entire league in Jack Campbell, flanked by solid, reliable pieces like Derek Barnes and Malcolm Rodriguez. When you really study the roster level by level, you start to see a pattern. This isn't a defense lacking talent. This is a defense that, on paper, has playmakers stacked at every single level, from the line to the linebacker room, all the way back to the secondary with names like DJ Reed, Ennis Rakestraw, and Rock Ya-Sin all playing significant roles. So then why has this defense struggled to close the deal in the biggest moments? That's the million-dollar question, and honestly, the answer might be more about consistency than it is about pure talent. Think back to a specific moment last season against the Baltimore Ravens, a game where Detroit's defense delivered an absolutely electric goal line stand against Derrick Henry, then followed it up by punching the ball directly out of Lamar Jackson's hands. In that moment, every single Lions fan watching was thinking the exact same thing. This defense is legit. This defense can play with anybody in the league. But then, just a handful of weeks later, on Christmas Day of all days, In a nationally televised whiteout game, Detroit found themselves losing to a third-string quarterback they had no business losing to. It was one of those gut-punch, hard-to-watch moments that summed up an entire season of flashes without full consistency. Offensively a tick-off, defensively a tick-off, and suddenly a team that finished 9-8, which to be fair is still an incredible accomplishment given where this franchise has come from, ended up missing the playoffs entirely, finishing fourth in their own division. That's the kind of finish that still stings, and honestly probably should. So this offseason, the front office clearly went to work addressing exactly those inconsistencies, starting with that defensive tackle room. Let's actually walk through the full picture of Detroit's defensive roster bubble heading into this season, because it paints a pretty encouraging picture of both proven talent and exciting depth. Up front on the interior, you're looking at Alim McNeill, Tyleik Williams, and Levi Onwuzurike as your top trio, followed by depth pieces like Tyler Lacey and Kyrese Gilliard rounding out the room. At defensive end, Detroit rolls out Aiden Hutchinson, DJ Nwadike, Derek Moore, and Pat O'Connor as the primary group, with names like Josh Paschal and Antoine Lucas battling for spots further down the depth chart. At linebacker, the strength continues with Jack Campbell anchoring the middle, flanked by Derek Barnes, Malcolm Rodriguez, and Jalen Reeves-Maben providing quality depth and special teams value. And in the secondary, you've got DJ Reed holding things down, Rocky Sin and Ennis Rakestraw developing into bigger roles, and veteran presence Roger McCreary adding another layer of experience to that room. Look, is every single spot on this roster completely settled and locked in? Of course not. There are legitimate questions still to be answered, particularly in the secondary, where there's admittedly a bit more uncertainty than fans would probably like heading into a season with real championship expectations. But when you step back and evaluate this defense level by level, the defensive line, the linebackers, the secondary, you can absolutely make the argument that this unit has enough talent, enough depth, and enough proven pieces mixed with exciting young athleticism to finally take that next step forward. And here's another factor that could make a massive difference this season: the schedule. Last year, Detroit was handed what amounted to an absolute gauntlet, one of the most difficult schedules in the entire NFL, filled with tough divisional battles, cross-conference measuring stick games, and bizarre, chaotic moments like that infamous Christmas Day loss. This year, the story is completely different. Detroit is set to play one of the easier schedules in the entire league. That doesn't guarantee anything, obviously. You still have to go out and win the games in front of you. But it does remove a lot of the unnecessary chaos and unpredictability that plagued last season. No more bizarre third-string quarterback upsets on national holidays. Just a straightforward path where a talented, well-coached team should have every opportunity to take care of business. So let's put it all together. An improved, more athletic interior defensive line, a star-studded linebacker core, a secondary with real starters and developing talent, one of the best pure edge rushers in football anchoring the defensive front, and now an easier overall schedule clearing the path. When you add all of that up, it becomes pretty easy to see why there's genuine optimism building around this Detroit defense heading into the season. Optimism that goes beyond just hoping the offense can outscore everybody. And that brings us to the fun part, the actual prediction. If this defense can take the leap that so many pieces suggest it's capable of taking, where exactly does that put the Detroit Lions this season? The bold prediction on the table is an NFC Championship game matchup against the Seattle Seahawks, with Detroit's high-powered, explosive offense proving to be simply too much to handle, while a much-improved defense holds up well enough against a Seattle offense led by Sam Darnold to punch Detroit's ticket to the Super Bowl. Now, would every Lions fan on the planet want to actually win that Super Bowl if given the chance? Of course. Nobody's setting the bar at just show up. But there's something undeniably special about the idea of simply getting there. Having those few weeks where your team is the story of the entire sports world. That extra week off before the big game, the build-up, the anticipation, the pure joy of watching your team compete on that stage after decades of waiting. For a fan base that has endured as much heartbreak and disappointment as Detroit has over the years, even just the journey to that moment would mean everything. So, is this actually the year? Is this finally the season where the Detroit Lions defense stops being the question mark and starts being the answer? The pieces are there. The talent is there. The coaching staff has clearly prioritized fixing exactly the problem that held this team back last season. And now, with a friendlier schedule and a defensive line that looks faster, stronger, and more disruptive than it has in years, there's real reason to believe this could be the breakthrough season Lions fans have been waiting their entire lives for. Only time will tell how it all plays out once the pads actually come on and the games start counting. But heading into this season, there's a tangible, real sense of optimism surrounding this defense that simply wasn't there a year ago, and that alone is worth getting excited about. All right, Detroit Scope family, that's the breakdown. Let us know down in the comments. Do you believe this defense has finally turned the corner? Are you buying the NFC Championship prediction? Or do you think we're getting ahead of ourselves? Sound off. We want to hear every single opinion. And if you're new to this channel, we need your help. We are working hard toward hitting 1,000 subscribers, and every single subscription makes a real difference in helping this channel grow, so we can keep bringing you this kind of in-depth Lions breakdown every single day. So please, take a second, hit that subscribe button, drop a like on this video, and let us know your predictions for this defense down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, Detroit Scope family. And as always, go Lions.